Yes, good afternoon, viewers, good afternoon, class. This afternoon, we are going to make a recap. We're going to make a recap using this recorded kind of interaction, whereby after this recording, you have to access it at your own point. Yes, we are going to revise anatomy and physiology, several topics we covered previously, and after my assessment, I realized most people didn't perform well based on the findings I did, and I know the factors. Some of them did not do because they missed out on some topics when we were presenting, they were not around. Others have just arrived. Others were on and off, they were relaxed. Others didn't know what to do. But this is to bring everyone together on board. As soon as you see it at your own time. Don't sleep without saying at least 10 minutes, and you get some few basics. Because this is the beginning part of human anatomy and physiology for any beginner. So we are going to begin with definitions. When we talk of anatomy, what do we mean? When we talk of physiology, what do we mean? And other terms that are important. So the term anatomy refers to the study of body structures, as we clearly indicated it last time. Study of body structures. And then the relationship between the different structures. So if we have certain structures in our bodies, maybe you have the heart. The heart is where? Is related to which part? Is on top of which part? So if we are tracing the heart, we trace it along which other parts or which other structures. So we are meaning the body structures and maybe their relationship with other different body parts. Anatomy. When you talk of physiology, you know the two terms go hand in hand. I'm saying if we talk of physiology, physiology and anatomy, they are two parts. I mean, there are two parts that are moving together, but physiology is defined as the study of body functions, functioning of those body parts. The ones we talked about in anatomy is what we call the physiology. I want to elaborate this point so that everyone gets them. When you talk of anatomy, in one word we mean structures. When you talk of physiology, in one word we mean functioning of those structures. Now, anatomy and physiology, if you combine the two words, how do we define them? Anatomy and physiology is therefore defined as the study of body structures and its functions. Now the two definitions are merged to form one. So under this, we are going to know what anatomical position mean or refers to. If possible, to understand this, I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to stand up and demonstrate. But before I stand up, I'm going to define for you what anatomical position is. So anatomical position refers to a person who is standing upright. First of all, the person is standing upright, and then facing forward. We're facing forward, and then hands hanging by body sides, palms facing forward, and then the feet together facing forward. So I'm going to take this opportunity to stand up. In anatomical position, we are saying somebody has to be standing upright. The way I'm standing upright and facing forward, arms hanging by the side as they are hanging, the palms facing forward, and then the feet together also facing forward. So I'm comfortable standing in anatomical position. So that is what he always refers to. Even if you're in an exam and you see this definition, you can start imagining how anatomical position is going to look like. I don't see anyone not getting that definition. Yes. Then I also have another beautiful term called body planes. Body plane, these are imaginary lines that divide the body into two parts. they are imaginary. We are imagining the line that divide the body into two parts. We are going to see some of them, how they are in the next part. So the other terms that are going to define what the direction is. Number one, lateral, which means on the same side, something of the same side. For example, the ear, this ear is the left ear is ipsilateral to the left hand. That can be the good example for the start. On the same side, we are meaning on the same side. Superior, something which is above or upper. Maybe you can say the heart is superior to the kidneys. Then inferior, which means below or lower. Something which is lower than the other. We can say the kidneys are inferior to the heart or to the lungs. Then anterior, something which is in front, something in front, something which is in front or something which is ventral. So something in front or something ventral is something anterior. That is the meaning of the word anterior. Posterior, something dorsal, something behind or something back. Now these terms are going to help us in understanding anatomy, because we are going to be saying the heart is superior to the spleen. You see, somebody is right. That is speaking anatomy. When we say the sternum is superior to the pelvis, you see, that is anatomy. So these terms, we are going to know them, we are going to use them during our anatomy discussions or interactions. Something abduction. Abduct is moving away from the midline. Away, abduction. You see, I'm abducting my hand. I'm abducting my hand. So that is moving away from the midline. Then adduction, ADDUCTION. Adduction means towards the midline. Towards. So if you are bringing anything from maybe my abduction, I'm now adducting. You see, I am now adducting. Adducting is moving towards the midline. Then rotation, of course, that is something that moves around a joint or around a pivot. So that is rotation. So pronation means turning palms downwards. Pronation, this is pronation. I am pronating, turning palms downwards. Supination, it means turning palms upwards. This is supination. Then superficial, something on the surface, something superficial. So if we are looking for something superficial, we are looking something, if you undress, what we see on your body is superficial. And the opposite of superficial is deep, something inside, something deep is something far inside. So in our anatomy we shall be saying deeper organs, superficial organs. So just know we are meaning those terms. Then parietal, part of the layer covering the body wall. Then also have hollow space. That is a cavity. Cavity is a hollow space. A hollow space which may contain some other things, contents or not, but a hollow space. We have many cavities in our bodies. We shall see the cavity that contains the brain, the cavity that contains the heart, the lungs, the cavity that contains the contents of the abdomen, the cavity that contains the contents of the pelvis. What are those cavities? I'm likely to give it to you that as an assignment. Yes. Then we also have other terms like proximal, nearest the point of origin. If maybe the point of origin is the shoulder joint. This is my shoulder joint, and then when we say proximal, we mean any part nearer. So this is proximal. If this is the shoulder joint, this is the elbow joint, and this is the wrist joint. Now, anything that happens between before the elbow joint is proximal compared to something that happens just after the elbow joint. So proximal, we are meaning nearest to the point of origin. Now distal is now far away from the point of origin. Now if still our elbow is our shoulder joint or our elbow, let's use an elbow, the elbow is the point of origin. So anything away from the elbow joint is what we call a distal. Then inferior we said, interior we are meaning something inside, something inner, something internal. That is an interior. Then because even the interior of a house, when you say interior of a house, we mean inside the house. Exterior, outside. These are terms that you shouldn't get confused to when it comes to anatomy. Flexion, that is bending towards the body. I'm flexing my elbow. I am flexing. Are you seeing? I am flexing. That is bending towards the body. Then extension, bending away from the body. Extension is the opposite of flexion. So when I'm flexed and I want to extend, I'm extending. For the knee, we flex while the leg is moving behind. So that is extension, flexion. Then we have the details of the body planes. We said body planes are imaginary that divide the body into two halves. We are imagining a line that can divide the body into two. You see, half of one nose, one eye on the other side, the mouth, everything that divide the body into two parts or halves. So those are imaginary lines. Number one, we have the coronal plane. So the coronal plane is a vertical plane, the one I'm actually demonstrating, running from side to side and divide the body or parts of the body into anterior and posterior portions. So this is the one that's going to divide like this, divide into anterior and posterior portions. So that is what we call a coronal plane. The sagittal plane is a plane that divides a body or any of its parts into right and left halves. So this is the sagittal plane. Sagittal plane is this one that divides one eye on this side, one eye on this side, one nose, half of the teeth, half of the teeth, like into one leg, one arm. So that is the sagittal plane. The sagittal plane can also be called the lateral what? Lateral plane. Then the third one, we have the axial plane, which is the transverse plane, and it is a horizontal line that divides the body or any of its parts into upper and lower parts. So any part that divides our body into two, maybe you cut it from the lower chest into the lower and upper, we are going to call that one an axial plane. Then we can also talk about body cavities. We talked about body cavities somewhere. We said body cavities, they can be a fluid-filled space in the body. They can contain some specific organs or tissues in those cavities. So cavities, they are fluid-filled space. By definition, they contain organs or tissues or any other thing that is in that place. Examples of cavities, you can have the cranial cavity. The cranial cavity, there is brain and other things. The thoracic cavity, in the thoracic cavity we have the heart, the lungs. The spinal cavity, we have the spinal cord. The abdominal cavity, there are also contents. The pelvic cavity, there are also contents. So what you are going to do, you are going to go and make a table. You are going to make a table. This is an assignment. You make a table. You are going to using a table. Give the content of each cavity. Using the table, give the contents of each cavity. Your assignment, and you are going to have it in a week's time. So the cavities, I think that's enough for you about the cavities. And then I also feel like I should give you another assignment about this, but let me hold it for now. So then also I need to know something about the body, because we are doing anatomy and physiology. We have known anatomy, what anatomy is. We have known what physiology is. Now, very many factors, very many reactions in our bodies are happening. Very many things, very many interventions that are helping our bodies to happen are going on. Even some of them, if we are not like us who do science, we may not know them. Now, that leads us to another subheading: internal and external environments of the body. So in our environments, the one we know, that's the external environment. Then there's also an internal environment. Other people may not know, but those are the two that make a human being or an individual to survive. The body has two environments, the internal and the external. The external environment is a surrounding environment outside the body, atmosphere, where we get oxygen. These trees, houses, animals, and others, that kind of environment we stay in is what we call external environment. The way you see, wherever you are just in external environment. Then there is an internal environment. It is the one inside the body, and it is a water-based environment where body cells are based in the tissue of interstitial fluid, and then around the cells there are very many things that happen, because inside our bodies we are made up of cells. So those cells are also in need of a certain environment to survive or to do. So the above two environments, that is the internal and external, are separated by the skin. So our skin separates this environment we're talking about, and then it also separates the other environment of internal. The internal environment gets oxygen and food from the external environment and then release the wastes. You see, this is what we used to do in photosynthesis. What products of photosynthesis, wastes of photosynthesis, now they are used by plants. The plants also give us oxygen. So that is the same system we are talking about. But how is it going to be related to what we are doing? The external environment gets carbon dioxide from the body for manufacturing its food. This is the photosynthesis we talked about earlier in our study. Yes. Now, the two environments, we are going to see how they help us. But meanwhile, we can also talk about the body fluid, because they have said the cells are based in fluids, maybe interstitial fluid and others. So the body is not dry but with fluid. So our body is made up of fluids. So the fluids are different. Even blood is a fluid, even what we're going to see. Now, its internal environment is a water-based environment into which body cells exist and are based. These fluids include extracellular fluid. Now, there are terms you need to know at this level. Extracellular fluid, which is the fluid outside the cells. Extra means outside. When you say extra, means outside. It can also be called interstitial or intercellular or tissue fluid. The cells absorb oxygen and nutrients from this extracellular fluid. Now, we are saying a cell is going to be inside the fluid, bathing in a fluid, meaning the environment that is surrounding the cell is this very fluid, and therefore this very fluid will determine how much oxygen, how much nutrients the cell must get. I hope that one is clear. The examples of extracellular fluids that we have in our bodies can include the following. Number one, blood. Blood is a very good example, because all our cells sometimes are flowing in blood. When we want to check on the cells, we test blood. Are we together? I hope yes. Plasma is also another extracellular fluid. Synovial fluid, this fluid that's found in the joints, within the joints, is synovial fluid. Lymph. I don't know that you know about lymph, but you know from your O level, from your A level, some of you know what lymph is. Cerebral spinal fluid, commonly abbreviated as CSF, that fluid that is within the spinal canal, cerebrospinal fluid. Pericardial fluid, that fluid that comes from around the heart. The pleural fluid. So all these fluids are called extracellular fluids. Now, terminology number 2, intracellular fluid. Because I've seen extracellular fluid, what it is and the examples and what it does. So intracellular, meaning this is the fluid inside the cell. So the fluid inside, intra means inside. Intra means inside. So inside the cell, we have the fluid called intracellular fluid. And examples can include mainly two: cytoplasm and nucleoplasm. Cytoplasm is this fluid we see usually in any cell, inside the cell. If you have drawn the cell, or if in the later notes you can see the cell, you can see inside the cell the cytoplasm. Everyone knows that. Then inside the cell there is also organelles called maybe nucleus, which has also another fluid inside called nucleoplasm. So those are two fluids that are going to be classified as intracellular. Yes, those are two that are going to be called intracellular. Yes, the fluid consists of water and dissolved salts. So the cytoplasm and the nucleus, they contain water and salts. Also these ones are there for a certain reason. Then having known the fluids, the internal environment and external environment, we come to a certain term called homeostasis. Homeostasis is the tendency of the body to control and maintain its internal environment to a fairly constant state in order to maintain life. Ladies and gentlemen, to maintain your life to be maintained, you need homeostasis like any other thing. Now, I will explain this. Our body is always at a threat. You eat a lot of, not a lot necessarily, you eat food, maybe too much sugar. Whether in the normal food or in an abnormal way, but you eat too much food, sugar. So when you eat too much sugar, there is a certain part of your body that is responsible for controlling that sugar, making sure it comes a fairly constant state in order to maintain life. When you eat portion, eat these sugars immediately after eating, and maybe we test your blood sugar, we are going to find them when they are shooting high. When they are shooting high, the body does not wake up. Does not sleep. It's like an attack on a state. The body will have to organize all means and make sure that that sugar doesn't go high. Because if it remains high and high, you are going to be diagnosed with diabetes. They say you have diabetes. Are you seeing that? So at the end of the day, the body has to fight, has to use mechanism to make sure the blood normalizes, the blood sugar normalizes. Likewise, in other aspects, if you drink a lot of water, the body has to fight in eliminating that water. How does it eliminate? It's going to make sure you go for a short course. It is going to make sure you go for a short course. Then other examples, if you talk about sugar, about water, other things. If your blood pressure goes high, also there is how the body is going to through the kidney and other, make sure they try to regulate your blood. So please go and after mastering these simple concepts, go and study these real mechanisms. There is a lot you can study about homeostasis, very many pages, but here we are just talk about it as a certificate person, as the beginner, for you to get the basics so that you can build on this as a scientist. Because very soon you'll be upgrading, you'll not be saying I only know that the definition of homeostasis and two examples which I cannot also explain in detail. So this is your task. But for now, I want you to not to be blind about the terminology homeostasis. So homeostasis has a system. It has a control system with three components. We have a detector, we have a control center, we have an effector. When we have the three, we can really talk about homeostasis. Number one, we have what we call a detector. A detector is one which senses any changes in the body. Any changes, maybe increase in blood sugar. Here, in this, we are going to use a pH, for example. pH, you understand what pH is? Our bodies are supposed to operate at a certain pH. And the pH we are talking of alkalinity, acidity. So our body is what? Is it alkalinity? Is it neutral? Is it acidic? Just know, our body has to operate at a certain pH. So any changes that are detected are going to be detected by a detector. Any changes in a pH, especially from 7.4 to any other, if it is lowering, it is the body is getting acidic. If it is increased, it's getting alkaline. Now, after that, a control center is notified, which determines the limit of the pH that should be maintained at 7 is notified. Are you seeing that? So if it is notified, it has to go and correct it through an effector which displays the normal pH of 7.4. So read about a detector, a control center, and an effector as far as the system of homeostasis is concerned. Yes. Then under the same, we are going to know what we call the negative feedback and the positive feedback mechanisms. So what is a negative feedback mechanism and what is a positive feedback mechanism? I don't want to dominate this kind of discussion. I will leave those two for you. Whenever you reach at this very point, please go and find out the two mechanisms, the negative and the positive feedback mechanisms. Read about them. During our oral assessment exam, you can be asked to talk about them. Yes. So these ones I've also given them as assignment 2. Negative feedback, positive feedback. Yes. Then here we come to communication in the body. Ladies and gentlemen, communication, apart from the way you define communication as sending and receiving of messages, is sending a letter, radio, TV. Now our body also communicates. In order to effect what we call the homeostasis, our body need to communicate. So during this communicating, the cells need to access the substance from external environment, as we earlier said. Also, the external environment may need some things from the internal environment. So that leads to what we call communication. Now, communication, I will not talk about it much. Otherwise, there are terms we are going to see ahead: osmosis, diffusion, active transport, bulk transport. We are going to read those things later in the other parts. That's where we shall do the details of communication. The chemistry of life. Chemistry of life. So the chemistry of life starts from something small, what we call matter. When we used to define matter, we used to define it as anything that occupies space and has weight. So as human beings, we have weight, we occupy space, therefore we are matter. And all matter is made up of particles called atoms. So what are atoms? From your elementary chemistry, an atom is the smallest particle of an element. Smallest particle of an element. So when these atoms come together, they can form an element. So when an element is formed, examples of elements can mean we used to know common 20 elements: potassium, sodium, aluminium, calcium. You know those ones. Now, those are examples of elements. So when these elements are combined together with another element, another element, now we have what we call a compound. So when these compounds come up, we end up having very many things. And in our bodies, those elements are there. When you say our body is made up of water, all of us know the symbol of water as H2O, meaning we have hydrogen in our body, we have oxygen. When our bodies have carbohydrates, we have carbon the element, we have oxygen. When our bodies have proteins, we have nitrogen in our bodies, we have hydrogen in our bodies. When our bodies have phosphorus, potassium and other minerals, calcium, you see, we have all those in our bodies. So at the end of the day, our body is made up of the chemistry we talked about. Yes, then away from that, away from the chemistry of life, we can also talk about electrolytes. Now, electrolytes, if you did electrolysis in chemistry, electrolytes are dissolved salts. When we have salts, we dissolve them in water, then we have what we call electrolytes. In our bodies, you can run a test and tell somebody the electrolytes imbalanced. The electrolytes are not imbalanced. And quite often you will see patients in your facilities, in your pharmacies, they are complaining of other things like headache, they are complaining of muscle aches, malaria, all those things that you can you cannot understand. At the end of the day, maybe they are triggered by electrolytes imbalance. The electrolytes are not balancing. The water, somebody is dehydrated, you see. So simple corrections, and maybe clinicians will admit them, put a drip on them, somebody goes back walking, you see, because the electrolytes were not matching. So electrolytes are very important. And actually, let me give you a simple example. If somebody gets diarrhea or diuretes for a long time, when they diurete for a long time, they can get electrolytes. They can lose more of the electrolytes. And normally, people give them ORS, oral rehydration salts, water and those salts and maybe some little sugar and what. So some of those, when they try to replace what is in the body, zinc and others. So those are things that we lose. So when you talk of electrolytes, look at it in that manner. Look at it in that angle. So the tendons of the body to dynamically maintain its normal body temperature, normal body environment is called homeostasis, as we earlier said. So we need to always maintain this homeostasis even in our electrolytes. Even in our electrolytes, we need to maintain the homeostasis. They need to balance. Now, at this level, we are going to start another important, so much examinable, something to understand. We're going to start about the cell, the tissues, and other parts, and the systems that fall in this category of our agenda. Now, we said in earlier on, we said our bodies are made up of simple things like molecules. Molecules form cells, cells form tissues, tissues form organs, and then we form organ system. Organ system also make a human body. A human body, like me, is made up of all those ones. Now, at different levels, we are going to see what is there in that level of organizations. Cell. A cell is the smallest functional unit or building bricks of the body. Building bricks, building blocks, the smallest functional unit of the body is a cell. Let you not be challenged by anyone and say what is a cell and you don't get that 1 or 2 marks. You know, people can even undermine you and ask that, and then you don't get maximum scores. The tissue, a group of cells that put together or that come together to work or perform a specific function. So when more than one cell come together, we can form a tissue, which tissue can do maybe a specific function. Then organelles, a group of tissues which work together to perform a specific function. When those tissues also come together, they form what we call an organ. And then the organs make a certain system. What are examples of the organs? Can you list very many organs we have? Can you list them? The heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, the stomach. Talk about those major organs we have in our bodies. The system are a group of organs working together, as we earlier said. So we have very many systems. What are examples of the systems again? Respiratory system, circulatory system, nervous system, reproductive system, etc., etc., etc. Talk about most of all those systems. Sometimes we call them organ systems. So the human body develops from a single fertilized cell, called the zygote, which results from two haploid cells called ovum and the sperm. You know, all of us started from a single fertilized cell, which at the end of the day divides several times, forming a human being of millions and millions and billions of cells that we are. So there is the structure of the cell, which you can be asked to draw and label. Usually there is no way you draw without label. There's an assignment I gave you guys, and the drawings are very poor. People draw as if they are forced, but you are forgiven. So when you say, oh, you get another chance to draw, please, you have to draw and label. So in the structure of the cell, we have very many important parts. That I'm going to put for you here, and you look at it. Maybe I'm going to put for you here. I want the camera to get it for you. I don't know that it is so much. So we have different parts. We have the nucleus, which we say it is the center and one of the biggest organelles. Mitochondria. I told you to draw a mitochondria, and some of you, what you are drawing is what I don't know. Then other things, endoplasmic reticulum, other parts that are within the cell membrane, and the rest. I think that's enough. I wanted you to see how this cell appears like for a beginner. Yes. Then having known the structure of the cell, which you spend some time looking at, you are supposed to know different organelles that make up this cell. Yes. So the first organelle we are going to look at is the cell membrane. So the cell membrane is a protective cover of the cell. The cell membrane is that marks the boundary, the borders of the cell. So that is the cell membrane that makes the borders of the cell. So it has also its function. Number one, we say it is a protective cover of the cell. It is also known as the plasma membrane or cytoplasmic membrane. So sometimes they can change the naming. You can say, what are the functions of the cytoplasmic membrane? What are you going to say? Just simply know their meaning, the cell membrane. So this cell membrane is a phospholipid bilayer. A bilayer meaning it's more of a sandwich, and it's a double layer of phosphates, and then the inner double layer is of the outer double layer are the phosphate, and then the inner double layer they are lipids. So the outer phosphate part accepts water, and so it is termed as the hydrophilic, and it means water loving, while the inner lipids they repel water, and they are also called hydrophobic. Hydrophobic, water hating, and then hydrophilic, water loving. So we are meaning those two layers, they determine which one hates water, which one loves water, because we have said the outer phosphates, they accept water, and in that process they are called hydrophilic, and then the inner, they are called hydrophobic because they are water hating, and the inner ones, they are basically lipids. I hope that one is clear. Then what do we need to know about the cell membrane? So the cell membrane has several functions. Actually, there is a structure you can look at which has the protein channel, the lipid bilayer. Maybe I'll also give you the structure at some point, but what I need to know about this are the functions. So are you able to list about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 functions of the cell membrane? Number one, they separate the cell from external environment. This is what we said earlier, that a cell is not only hanging in air, but is based within extracellular fluid, if you can remember. And the extracellular fluid in that case is called an external environment. Number two, protect the cell from invading organisms, because we said the cell membrane is a demarcation, is a border, is a boundary that makes how the cell is. And at the end of the day, there are other very many organisms in blood. Maybe they are pathologies or pathological organisms. Maybe there are these bacteria or what, which are also looking for cells to kill. But because of the cell membrane, the cell organelles and other contents, they are protected from invading organisms. The plasma membrane or the cell membrane encloses the cell and then the outer cell organelles. That's what we say. It encloses them. It makes a fence for them. Control substances that enter or leave the cell. We say it, we need the communication, but where necessary. So it is the one that is controlling, it is a gatekeeper, it is a gate man that is going to control what enters the cell or what leaves the cell. The cell membrane in some organisms like amoeba aids in locomotion. Locomotion means movement. You see, using cephalopodia, the amoeba is able to move from one place to another using the cell membrane. The cell membrane is important in transportation of some materials because we said it allows the communication, therefore transportation of material is possible. And then lastly, it plays a part in ion conductivity or impulses in nerve cells. You know, we shall also see a nerve cell, and the purpose of the nerve cell is for impulse transmission. So that leads us to another organelle, which is the cytoplasm. So what is cytoplasm? So cytoplasm is also known as cytosol. That's another name. Cytosol. It is a fluid found within the cell or inside the cell, and we named it as one of the intracellular fluids, cytoplasm or cytosol. The cytoplasm contains all other organelles and the fibers that make up the cytoskeleton. Organelles, fibers that form what we call the cytoskeleton is what we call the cytoplasm. Functions of the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm has several functions which can move up to almost 8, but I'm going to give you some of them which are easy to memorize for now. The cytoplasm is important in all cell activities. It gives a platform for happening of cell activities since it is the fluid inside the entire cell. So it gives the platform for entire cell activities. Examples of cell activities. Respiration, cellular division, and others. Protein synthesis and all other things that are supposed to be done at cellular level. Transport materials in and out of the cell, because if the material have to be transported, have to cross the cell, they have to go through the cytoplasm. It gives shape to the cell. So if there is no cytoplasm, it means the shell will have a different shape. It acts as a solvent for compounds in the cell, and then it embeds and supports other organelles. Sometimes it is a source of support for different organelles. So we can also talk about the third organelle, which is the nucleus. Nucleus should have been number one because it's a vital organelle. So the nucleus is the biggest or the largest central organelle in the cell. Largest. How do you forget this? It contains the genetic material, which is a DNA, and therefore for any DNA something to do with inheritance, it has originated from the nucleus of the cell. So the nucleus is also made up of another fluid which we call nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm with a dense body called the nucleolus. So the nucleus is made up of the fluid which we call nucleoplasm, and then the nucleoplasm is also having a central part that looks like the nucleus again, but this time they have called it the nucleolus. So that is about the nucleus. Then function of the nucleus, it gives chromatin material in the cell division. So during cell division, the chromatin material given protects the DNA and the nucleus. It is its role to protect the DNA and the nucleolus. It controls cell activities. In brief, it is a control center of the cell. The fourth organelle, mitochondria. I want to talk about only vital and big organelles. So the mitochondria is a sausage-like membranous structure within the cytoplasm. Sausage-like. Some of you know what the sausage is. So if I tell you to draw it, can't you even imagine from the sausage? It is called the powerhouse of the cell because it is the one responsible for production of energy. ATP is made from. In brief, cell respiration is largely happening because of the mitochondria. Then this mitochondria has what we call a double membrane. The outer is smooth while the inner is folded or rough. That rough or folded inner infolding of the mitochondria is what we call crystal in the diagram. And that one is there for the reason. The reason why it is folded, as we are going to see. So the mitochondria contains a fluid similar to cytoplasm called matrix. That fluid that's almost resembling cytoplasm, it is called matrix. It also contains ribosomes and have its own DNA, so it is a semi-autonomous because of that DNA. Sometimes we try to say it is semi-autonomous. Something autonomous, something which can try to be independent. They almost have independence, like they can do most of the things without even consulting others. So that's why we call it a semi-autonomous. Then we said the mitochondrion or the mitochondria is responsible for respiration and metabolic reactions. So that is one of the functions. Also important is mitochondria is having special enzymes that are responsible for apoptosis. That is programmed cell death. So the cells which want to die, they are also dying because the mitochondria is going to produce the enzymes that are responsible for destroying the cells, the dead cells that are not important. Please practice drawing some of these. Practicing drawing this mitochondria. I don't know how you normally study, but you need to use a pen, use a pencil, draw as many times. Drawing will save you from these drawings. Practicing how to draw will set you free. So the folds or convolutions are also known as the cluster, which help increase the surface area. Those enfolding the inner membrane, which is enfolding the area, put it clear, it is called a cluster. So that cluster is folded in order to increase surface area for those particular reactions to take place. Which reactions? Respiration, metabolism, and others. Yes. Then the space between the outer and the inner membrane is called intermembranous space, and that is obvious. Functions. How important is the mitochondria? So it produces ATP. When you say ATP, we are meaning production of energy. It is an important, it plays an important role in cell death, programmed cell death, which we call apoptosis. If cells want to die, they have grown. Sometimes you may wonder, where do cells go? Where do cells go? Is the cell you are born with still the same? No, cells die and they are replaced by others. So those programmed cell death is what we call apoptosis. The enzymes responsible for doing that are produced by mitochondria. Number 3, it is where cell respiration is carried out. Cell respiration is carried out. Respiration, oxidation of glucose to release energy. Several other mini complex reactions take place. Glycolysis, Krebs cycle, all those are happening because of respiration. Then the other function of the mitochondrion can include, it plays a part in synthesis of proteins, plays a part in protein synthesis, and then that leads us to another organelle or organelles called ribosomes. Ribosomes, very important. So ribosomes are tiny granules within the cytoplasm, which may be attached to the endoplasmic reticulum and nuclear membrane. They are attached. When you look at the diagram of the cell, the one I just captured and presented, you are going to see those dots that are attaching on endoplasmic reticulum, and they are important for protein synthesis. At the same time, the endoplasmic reticulum is going to get another name as a rough endoplasmic reticulum because of the attachment of the ribosomes. And if the other endoplasmic reticulum is not attached with the ribosomes, that one is smooth endoplasmic reticulum. We are going to see it as a separate organelle, but now just know ribosomes, because they are attached there, they give another name. They change the meaning of the organelle. So the major function of the ribosome is protein synthesis. We said that ribosomes, they are important for protein synthesis. Protein synthesis is a complex process. Also, book readers got other books. You can give, I won't give you the references. You can also see detailed protein synthesis processes, because knowledge does not kill. You need to know more than even what I'm telling. So that is about ribosomes. So we have another organelle called endoplasmic reticulum. So endoplasmic reticulum, we are saying they are divided into two. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum and then rough endoplasmic reticulum. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is the one which has ribosomes attached to, while the smooth is the one without ribosomes. Just know it like that at this level. Now, what about the functions? So endoplasmic reticulum is a site for protein synthesis, especially the rough endoplasmic reticulum, because already you said ribosomes, they do protein synthesis. So if ribosomes are attached on rough endoplasmic reticulum, we are sure there will be protein synthesis. Another function is transport the modified proteins. So after manufacturing, what is the fate? What do the proteins do? Do they just sit? They need to be transported to different parts of the body. It is done by endoplasmic reticulum. Even in its drawing, we're going to be seeing it's scattered, like there are stacks, not scattered, stacks and they are continuous, and they are continuous, and they also have an attachment with the nucleus. Then also form the Golgi body by budding off of vesicles which fuse together. So budding off is like branching off of those vesicles, and then it can be its function. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum is important in the synthesis of hormones, lipids, and cholesterols. The manufacture of cholesterols, lipids, and hormones is done by the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum is also important in detoxification of drugs in the liver. In the liver, the endoplasmic reticulum, in the liver cells, the endoplasmic reticulum is important in detoxification of drugs. As we all know that the liver is responsible, but is it the liver only? The liver is an organ which is made up of cells. So those cells, their organelles are the endoplasmic reticulum. They're important in detoxification of drugs. Then the endoplasmic reticulum, they help in reformation of nuclear membrane during cell division. So after cell division, the formation of the nuclear membrane is aided by endoplasmic reticulum. So I hope these are clear. So those are some of the organelles that I wanted you to discuss. Maybe you can also talk about lysosomes lastly. Lysosomes. So the lysosomes are single membrane vesicles from the Golgi body which contain enzymes needed by the cell. Now the cell needs some enzymes, as we have seen in earlier, like the mitochondria can be a production site for some enzymes. So those enzymes are the same we are talking about as lysosomes. So these lysosomes, they are needed by the body in what we call lysis, or breakdown of different maybe dead cells, other debris, maybe dead microorganisms. If you take a drug and the cell, the bacteria die in your body, who is responsible? So these lysosomes, they have that kind activity of destroying all those debris out of your body. Yes, so that is why I have to talk about them. Lysosomes. So that makes all about what we call the organelles of the cell, and then maybe you can talk about a few things, and then we go. That is the cell cycle, because we talked about the cell. We said the cell can die, other cells come in, cells divide, but before we know how cells divide, or before we know what to call cell division, we can also first talk about the cell cycle. So the cell cycle is a period taken by a daughter cell to grow and develop to maturity before it is ready to divide. So before that cell reaches that state of maturing to allow another cell division to happen, there must be what we call the cell cycle happening. And the cell cycle is composed of two major, when we say two major phases, include the interphase and then the mitosis. The interphase is where the cell is preparing for division, that's the interphase, and then the mitosis is the actual cell division where there is production of new cells. So those are two phases that we are going to see under the cell cycle. There's a good diagram which is showing the cell cycle, and that one you look for it in the textbook and look at it, which has the phases. It has mitosis, as we said, and then it also has the interphase. So interphase is the longest. It has G1, S phase, and G2. Then mitosis has also part which is called cytokinesis, where the cytoplasm divide. In brief, we are saying the cell cycle, the cell is different things are matured, before it is ready for division, there must be different contents. Maybe the chromosomes are going to be duplicated. If we want to divide the cell, then we need 2 chromosomes. If we need 2 chromosomes, then they will divide. Then the cell will have to first mature and have 2, so that when they divide, everyone can take their own, or can take different parts. So I hope this makes some little sense. Maybe you can use this kind of recording for your revision, and then you make sure we benefit. Otherwise, I intend to stop here, but do not forget to subscribe on our channel. Do not forget to subscribe on our channel so that we can always receive this kind of new knowledge. Yes, I wish you a good evening.